With Saturn stationing direct in Pisces this week, it is a reminder that actions have consequences. With Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio, it's a reminder that our words have consequences. And the consequences that we pay are not just within our physical material world, but also within our soul. Having the debris of guilt or shame or regret weighing on us can be a punishment in and of itself. And with Mercury and Saturn stationing direct, there is an ask for the collective to really be accountable. As tempting as it may be to want to escape it away, numb it away, Saturn stations direct in Pisces, that first quarter moon in Pisces, that temptation is going to be immense because sometimes the pressure of facing ourselves or admitting what we did or admitting where we are at fault, that can suck to admit. It's a lot easier to numb it away or to deflect accountability or make other people the problem. But Saturn direct is asking each and every one of us to take responsibility over our lives. And there are many individuals who are allergic to accountability. I'm sure you know quite a few. And for some of you, you may be listening to this and with Mercury and Venus and Scorpio, be really thinking about some of your ops or people who have done you really dirty. And sometimes when you've been hurt or betrayed by somebody, it can feel really unfair when you see them winning in life, when you see them receiving all of these great blessings and you're like, hello, universe, is there no karma? No, there's karma. Saturn direct reminds us of that, but we don't always see where individuals do get what it is that they have put out into the world. Because sometimes, especially with Saturn and Pisces, these are spiritual consequences that are to be paid. And those can be the most grueling of all. It may be challenging to see someone win when they have been so nasty to you, but you don't see when they're trying to go to sleep at night, or you don't see where it is that they are haunted by what they have done to you and the sides of themselves that they are refusing to see. You don't see that. And it's always my personal encouragement to be very intentional where you place your energy. Like sometimes even just wanting ill to fall on somebody else, it's still putting that frequency out into the world. It's not something that I personally find very empowering. But if those sort of thoughts are in your mind, Saturn direct is an energy around. Let karma do its thing. Whether we see it or not, we all have to atone for what we have done, either in this lifetime or the next. And my encouragement, especially with this week's astrology, is that yes, if it gives anyone any peace and comfort with Saturn direct, Saturn is retracing its steps. So what it is that we've been putting out will be brought back just like a boomerang. But the encouragement would be really tuning into your own amends or your own acknowledgement of what you have done and who you have been. And I don't mean to paint Saturn direct in such a negative light. Like truly, this can be the energy of starting to see the positive consequences of your action, but more importantly, your energy reflect within your outer world. If you've been really doing the work to get right with your soul, to really show up for this reality, show up for your connection to the divine, when a planet shifts direction from retrograde to direct, it flips the focus from inward to outer. So you can start to see some of your inner work that you've been doing and chiseling reflect within your outer reality, reaping the fruits of your labor, so to speak. I want to be so clear. Saturn has been in Pisces. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it. It's not just around our actions. It's also around the energy of who we have been to our soul. Who have you been being? Have you been striving to put out loving compassion to the world around you? Have you been really striving to see other individuals? Have you been doing the work, not just in terms of how we make a living and how we do our errands, but our soul work within this lifetime? Because, the universe saw that. That's the thing. We can think like, hello, universe, can this person get their karma? Or think that we got away with something, but the universe sees all. And it's not just the actions that we do. It's also like soulfully, spiritually, what we have been putting out there, emitting the frequency that we have been emitting. And Saturn direct may also make a judgment call on all of us to arise to the call of where it is that we have been evading the work or doing the work, regardless of where it is that we may land on the spectrum. And like I noted, the temptation to swim away like a little scared fish is going to be immense. And the other reason to not get too absorbed by focusing in on other people and whether or not they've received their karma, is that not one of us are blameless. Not one of us have swam through this life perfectly. There most certainly is a spectrum. There is some evil within this world. And with Saturn direct, it can be very gratifying when we see secrets come out. You know, Mercury retrograde has been a doozy, or starting to see people pay for some of the damage that they've incurred within this lifetime. Most certainly there is a spectrum, but not one of us are in a moral high ground in order to really judge or condemn another soul, because all of us have been toxic at some point of our life, created hurt and damage at some point of our life. And with all of Pisces energy in the cosmos, it's a reminder that we become the waters that we swim around and within. That doesn't mean that we don't have to arise to the call of what it is that we have done. Physically, soulfully, spiritually, emotionally, like we all have to answer that call. But oftentimes there is context. Dirty water, sick fish. Like a lot of times when we think back to the things that we have done that were so toxic, that were so cruel, that were so mean, that were so spineless, whatever it may be, oftentimes there's so much context around, yeah, I was being really toxic and I was being really mean, but it's because I was so immersed in these negative habits and I was in so much pain. So I was just putting more of that energy out into the world. Like, Pisces is a very empathetic sign, and oftentimes, so long as they're a legitimate human being with a consciousness, oftentimes when you really hear someone's story out, yes, they've done things that were atrocious that maybe you personally would have not have done, but oftentimes when you sit with them and you hear about their childhood and what it is that they were going through, it doesn't take away from the hurt that they have caused, but it makes sense. Like when you're swimming in these sort of waters, like of course you're going to become what it is that you're surrounded by. We all have a price to pay for that. And oftentimes when you think of Pisces energy, you know, it could be very malleable, very go with the flow. And there can be an energy of, you know, peer pressure or just like naturally aligning to the frequency of who we are around, the school of fish that we are around and going the direction that they are going in. But you still have to take responsibility as the leader of your life, as your own fish, your own being. And yes, there's circumstantial elements around being in immense pain and going through this and having this trigger and having all of this. Like there's so much that gives context to decisions that we would maybe think are atrocious or have a lot of shame over. And it's knowing that certainly there's reasonings, there's emotional reasonings, there's spiritual reasonings, there's psychological reasons that have got us to the point where we do something wrong or something that we're not proud of. And it's having compassion with those extenuating circumstances, but also seeking in whichever way feels right for you to rectify, to repair, to make peace, to apologize, however that may look. And to see wherever possible we can have empathy and compassion for other humans as well. Like hate what they did, but like love the person. That's also alive this week with the Mercury-Venus conjunction and Venus trining Neptune. Whether it's yourself or somebody else, no one is perfect. And with two planets shifting direct this week, there's an ask to make peace with the past, make amends with the past, forgive yourself, forgive someone else, learn from your mistakes, whatever that may be. But the direction of life is moving forward. And oftentimes, the more that we evade responsibility of our own wrongdoings, the more that we skirt accountability, we cannot grow. How can we possibly grow when we're just chasing our own fin, trying to avoid what it is that we did or trying to avoid facing it? How can we grow? How can we genuinely move forward? So much of this life is not just what it is that we do and how it is that we are known for. It's how at ease you feel within your soul. And guilt and shame can be erosive for the soul, especially when you keep ignoring it and escaping it and just seeking to numb it and snooze it. And in that interim of running from accountability, oftentimes you get yourself into 20 more messes. And where is it that we can hold ourselves with loving compassion in that? Again, hating what we've done, but loving the human, as well as giving yourself a very compassionate reality check. Reality checks can be compassionate around, facts are facts. I did this. Or maybe maybe for you, it's not so much a wrongdoing or doing something shady. Maybe there were certain things that you were avoiding. You weren't paying this sort of bill, or you did not prioritize your dental health like your dentist told you to a year ago. Like Saturn Direct could also be, I don't need to be in guilt and shame around like, why didn't I go to the dentist? Why did I pay this bill? Facts are facts. What has been done has been done. All we can do is move forward. And it takes being willing to give ourselves that compassionate reality check around it. This does not mean you are flawed as an individual. This does not mean that you are bad, but it's just acknowledging I didn't prioritize my dental health. I didn't pay this particular bill. And as I acknowledge that, as I forgive myself for that, but as I strive to move forward, that is ultimate self-love. And the biggest apology that we can give to ourselves, to others, is changed behavior. Apologies that are not met with changed behaviors are just pretty words meant to smooth things over. The best apology is changed behavior. And with Saturn Direct, it can also be a reality check with compassion to yourself or to those around you. As you can tell, my loves, this is a major week of astrology, and we're going to get into it. But before we do, take a step inside my Cosmic Cafe. Let me know what you are sipping on. I have been in such an obsession. I've been so hyperfixated. I sometimes just get super obsessed with something, whether it's a particular song and I need to literally listen to it over and over and over again, or I get really attached to a certain workout class or a certain instructor and need to take their class over and over and over again. When I love something, I really love something. I go deep with it. Call it the Pluto aspects, call it the Scorpio placements in my chart. But my current obsession as of late has been dirty chais. I've been obsessed with dirty chais. They've been like all I've been drinking as of late, and every single time a dirty chai just hits. So essentially, if you're not familiar, dirty chai is a chai with a shot of espresso within it. So this is an iced dirty vanilla chai. So it's vanilla chai, and then I added a shot of espresso and a little bit of oat milk, and it's hitting. Just like my other 8 or so dirty chais this week have hit. When I say I have an obsessive personality, I mean it. When I love something, I really love it. And another one of my obsessions right now and literally always is my very favorite jewelry brand, Ana Luisa. And I love that this very channel has the receipts to back it up. I think there's an element of this week's astrology with Mercury stationing direct and Saturn stationing direct around pulling up the receipts. And you can see documented evidence on this very YouTube channel, on my Instagram, how much I love Ana Luisa and how their jewelry has been basically my co-host for so many episodes of Magic Monday. And I love that you have seen me wear Ana Luisa pieces for years because it really illuminates just how high quality their pieces are. Like, for example, these are my very favorite Paris hoops that were one of my first pieces from Ana Luisa. This is where the obsession began, was these very Paris hoops. And you could see me wear them all of the time on my channel. And even after all of that wear, all of that use, they're still just as bright, just as shiny, just as functional as the day that I received them back in 2023. Ana Luisa jewelry is jewelry that lasts. And with Saturn, the planet of time, stationing direct this week, there is a real call to really invest our energy in what stands the test of time. And my channel is proof that Ana Luisa jewelry stands the test of time. And Ana Luisa has an amazing 2-year warranty on all of their jewelry pieces. So you can really feel good around investing in your jewelry collection, investing in your stacks. We are nearing the end of the year and the holiday season, and I always feel really good giving the gift of Ana Luisa. I've given my mom Ana Luisa. I've given my sister Ana Luisa. I've given my friend Cassidy Ana Luisa, and I love how much they love it and how much they wear it. When you give Ana Luisa, you are giving the loved ones in your life the gift of exceptional jewelry while not having to spend an arm and a leg. And especially now, Ana Luisa is having their biggest sale of the year, their Black Friday sale, where you can get up to 30% off. Plus, if your cart hits 130, you will get a free gift. So not only are you giving the gift of Ana Luisa to others and checking off some individuals off your holiday gifting list, you're also giving yourself a free gift. Or you could be selfless and also give the free gift to somebody else. But trust me, as somebody who owns a lot of Ana Luisa, you're going to want the free gift. You're going to want the free gift. If you've ever watched one of my videos and you're like, where did she get that really chic, timeless piece of jewelry? Most likely Ana Luisa. When I say I have an obsession, I have an obsession. So my loves, do not delay. This is Ana Luisa's biggest sale of the year. Check out the link below to get up to 30% off, plus a free gift if your cart hits 130. I also have the QR code here that you can scan if you happen to be watching me on TV. Ana Luisa, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of Magic Monday. Just love you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into vibe check of the week. Astrology can be confusing, especially when we have a week of astrology where there's this much going on, because we have not even gotten into the half of it. We have Venus opposite Uranus this week. Venus enters Sagittarius. We have 2 planets stationing direct, and each of these transits contain their own energetic signature, and it can make your brain swim trying to contemplate all of the dynamics of each and asking yourself the question, what does this mean for me and my week, my interview, my holiday plans, my date, whatever it is that you have within your schedule. The vibe check of the week is essentially our celestial story time, where we give some texture and nuance to this astrology by comparing it to a real life scenario. I'm not suggesting this exact situation will play out within your world, but sometimes it does. And those comments always shake me to my core. I love whenever somebody comments that the vibe check of the week happened to them, someone that they know just happened, something like that. I always love that. I swear it's like a rite of passage being here in the cosmic corner of the internet to have at least one vibe check of the week be your life. It won't always happen. Sometimes it'll just show up in a vibe sort of way, or a theme sort of way, an emotional sort of way, even if the exact specifics do not relate to you. So with this week of astrology, we will say that you are sober. You have not always been sober. In fact, you had a very, very messy, chaotic party phase. And it became clear to you eventually that the way that you partied and the way that other people partied was not the same. Like, it all just felt fun, but with time and with anxiety and with embarrassing mistakes and incidents, it became abundantly clear that you cannot drink in the way that other people drink. That's just something that you had to face. And oftentimes feeling the shame of what you did the night prior, it would just drive you to drink again, where it wasn't even necessarily at a certain point that you liked how you felt when you were inebriated. You just hated how you felt when you were sober. And so your life became running away from any moment of sobriety and clarity, and running away from your mistakes, running away from the people that you had hurt, just trying to get to the next drink and the next drink and the next drink. And you just recognized that 1 for you is too much, and 1,000 was never enough. Like, there was just this insatiable more energy that was alive within your relationship with alcohol. And so you had to make a judgment call and decide, this is not something that I can have within my life. And you've cleaned up your act, but there's still some messes that you are cleaning up, even though you've been sober for some time now. There's still some debt that you're paying off from that time of your life. There's still some relationships that have been a little strained from some of your behavior. There's still some places that you can't go to. You've been kicked out and you had to write a letter to the manager apologizing for what it is that you did. You've been making amends, and it can be embarrassing to go to the manager and apologize for your actions that you don't even remember, but you know it must be really bad if you're kicked out. It's embarrassing to have certain relationships where they have seen you within that season of your life. It's embarrassing to have to deal with the financial ramifications of spending just an obscene amount of alcohol in fueling your habit and depriving every other element of your life that you should have been funding. It's hard work. Saturn energy, it is hard work, but it's necessary, especially for you to spiritually and soulfully move forward, because that is the focus for all of us with Mercury and Saturn stationing direct. And for our protagonist, I want to move forward. I want to move forward. And you've cleaned up your act. You've made your apologies. There is one particular person who you do owe an apology to. And this person hurt you as well. We'll name this person Brenda. You and Brenda were party friends, but even beyond that, you guys were good friends to one another. And just within the chaos of what you were going through, you ended up doing things that were atrocious. You feel horrible around what you did, and you don't even recognize that version of yourself. You're like, how did I do that? That's the thing. When we are in waters that are very toxic, we're in a lot of sadness. We're in a lot of pain. We're surrounded by negative influences, bad influences. Our soul will watch us do things that we're like, that's not who I am. Like, that is not who I am. And sometimes not wanting to face that, we'll want it to create as much distance from that version of ourselves as possible. So your tactic around the Brenda situation, yes, it keeps you up at night. You get hit with random attacks of guilt. You see photos of her. You get certain flashbacks on social media. You still have one of her shirts, and it just takes the wind out of your lungs every single time thinking about it, and then feeling the wave of shame and guilt wash over you, which is typically the sensation that makes you tempted to reach for something that you shouldn't, which again, you're not doing that any longer. But you recognize in order to break the shame loop, you need to do whatever possible to extend some sort of olive branch, to seek if you can rectify something within her world. And yes, you have a guilty conscience, and sometimes, we could be a little selfish with our desire around wanting to confess or wanting to apologize, but you really cannot sit with yourself. You can't live with yourself knowing what you did. And certainly there's extenuating factors. You were deep in a habit that you recognize was incredibly toxic. There were other arenas of your life that were creating a lot of pain and trauma that were driving you deeper into the throes of what it is that you're navigating. And again, we could see all the extenuating factors while also saying, yeah, but what I did to you was not okay, and you deserve an apology, truly. And so that's what you decide to do. Mercury retrograde conjoining Venus. You decide to reach out and see if Brenda would be open to grabbing a cup of coffee with you, maybe a dirty chai with you. And you know that Brenda really owes you nothing. Like, what you have done is atrocious. Like, she could just ghost you, and at least you tried. You tried to make amends. Maybe there'll be a time that you can strive to make it up to her, whatever that may look like. But you are surprised when she's open to meet. And again, there was hurt on both sides. Like, ultimately, the final blow to the friendship was something atrocious that you did. And your friendship can't come back from that. And even though it could be tempting to point the finger around, you did this and you did this, you have to take accountability for your role in it. And amazingly, she also takes accountability for her role around, yeah, what you did was not okay. You created a lot of pain, but also I wasn't the best friend to you at times. You both just have this moment of acknowledging where you both played a part. And even though one of you played a bigger part, like, you created a lot of hurt and a lot of pain beyond the total sum of what Brenda has done to you, there was still hurt and pain on both sides. And it just amazes you and honestly inspires you that Brenda is so emotionally intelligent and so in tune with who she is that she's also able to admit that. Again, just because one person's actions are worse doesn't mean that the other person is perfect or that their actions do not require some sort of, apology or some sort of reckoning. So it's definitely not going to be like you and Brenda holding hands, skipping into the sunset. Like, there's been so much that has transpired, and you both are just different people, truly. She also has cleaned up her act and got her life together. And there is an energy of forgiveness, not saying what you did was okay, but just deciding to find some sort of acceptance or peace or surrender, still seeing the humanity of the person or the soul in the person around. I acknowledge that you were in a lot of pain. I acknowledge that you're in active addiction. I acknowledge that you're changed now. Like I said, the best apology, the only apology, is change behavior. Like, this conversation would have gone so much deeper if you were still wreaking havoc on the world. Brenda can see, and your life is a testament that you have changed. You have cleaned up your act. You are not living in the same way. You are not hurting people in the way that you did prior. You would not do that to your friends. And that says a lot too. And leaving this particular coffee shop, it just truly feels like a weight has been lifted from your soul. Like Saturn direct in Pisces, we pay the price somewhere. And we can think, oh, it's fine. I've gotten my act together. I've cleaned up my act. But this was something that was weighing on your soul. And spiritual consequences are consequences. If there is something that is just weighing on you, that is keeping you up, that is making you feel out of integrity with your soul, it's important to do whatever you feel like is necessary in order to make amends. with that part of your journey, because it can be crushing to have a weight on your soul of guilt and shame. And again, there's elements where you're not proud of that season of your life, but you feel like a weight has been lifted. And it was uncomfortable reaching out. It was uncomfortable admitting all that you had done in this conversation. It was uncomfortable looking her in the eyes and having to face who she knew you as, but you've both been granted the opportunity to move forward. She admitted in your talk that she had really wanted to hear that apology. Again, whenever we seek to apologize to someone, we really cannot be fixated on that person's response, because we can't control that. Sometimes people will be able to forgive us, which is the case in Brenda, and sometimes they won't. And it's important to release expectation from it, because that also can make an apology insincere. If it's like, no, but you have to forgive me. It's like, they don't have to. It's their soul. It's their pain. And they will do so when they are ready to. And what's important for you is that you showed up, you took accountability, you did what you were able to do. We cannot erase the pain of the past or the hurt of the past. What's important is that we arise to the call of answering to them. And so some of you this week, with Mercury retrograde conjoining Venus, you could hear from someone unexpected. Venus also opposes Uranus. Brenda did not think she was going to hear from you. Like, she wanted an apology, but she did not anticipate that, especially since you had done so much. Just block out that season of your life to just erase all of the photos or not look at the photo album. We talked about that last week. Or to block her on social media, to just erase and forget that that time of your life ever happened. You know, like conveniently having amnesia of that particular time of your life around. It didn't happen. Like, I'm just going to gaslight myself and tell myself that that didn't happen and I never hurt someone like Brenda. Again, that temptation can be alive this week with the first quarter Pisces moon and Saturn direct. So some of you may have people come back around who apologize to you about things. And you're like, I was not expecting this apology. You know, there is a spirit of compassion and potentially forgiveness this week. We have this Grand Water Trine involving Venus and Scorpio. We have Venus trine Neptune. So there can be an energy of forgiveness and seeing if we can move forward. You know, one of my obsessions, I've noted a few within this very episode of Magic Monday, I really love, and no judgment, not allowed to judge me, I really love reality TV. Particularly right now, my obsessions are Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Listen, no judgment. Someone can be spiritual and into trash TV. We contain dualities. But in a lot of these reality television formats, there's always drama, right? And there will be these like dramatic lunches or dinners where they basically like get together and talk about what has been done. And typically a huge part is like, we want to move forward within our relationship. How is it that we can move forward? And accountability is the first step around at least admitting what has been done. It's very challenging. We see it on these shows when someone will not admit what they have done. And sometimes they'll just want to gaslight themselves around that didn't happen and try to convince other people to come into their reality where you cannot move forward. How can you move forward when you're not even standing on solid ground, when you're not even acknowledging reality? Like Saturn direct is a reality check. And I just bring up these reality shows because this week's vibe check is basically that. Granted, it is a little heavier, denser, more emotional, more intense. But for some of you, there could be an energy where you are having an uncomfortable conversation. Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Let's talk about it. In order to move forward, Mercury direct, Saturn direct, how do we move forward? How do we progress? Is that as friends? Is it as acquaintances? Is it as coworkers? Is it as enemies? How is it that we can move forward? And knowing that accountability is the key part of the recipe that enables us to move forward, whether that's to ourselves or to others. So we'll talk about some other dimensions of how this week's astrology can surface within your world. I just want to remind you that I'm located in California, so all times that I mention are PST. Please adjust to your local time zone if you are located elsewhere. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, November 24th. On Monday, November 24th, at 5:52 p.m. PST, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio will align with Venus in Scorpio. As you know, Mercury retrograde can be a time that we are completing the incomplete. We are tying up loose ends. And with Mercury retrograde aligning with Venus, potentially feeling inspired to tie up loose ends of the heart, like wanting to reach out to people where the way that things were left just does not feel right to your soul. This can be a time that you do hear from someone, especially if something feels very unfinished. This could be shocking. We have Venus opposite Uranus. So there could be somebody who is in your Facebook messages randomly or emails you. Like there just could be something surprising and someone wanting to express something from their heart space around, I just want to say I'm proud of you, or I just want to say I apologize, or I just want to let you know that I have changed as an individual. Like some individuals could receive some sort of communication like this, or a bid for that. Maybe you're the one who feels like something is unfinished, something is incomplete, and it's weighing on your heart. It's weighing on your soul. And what's important, we talked about this earlier, is to release expectation. Like if there's something that you want to say, that you need to say, you cannot fixate on getting a certain response from the individual. That's not really a true apology if you are fixated that the person needs to accept it or that this person needs to let you back into life. You know, that's not really accountability. We have Saturn direct later on this week. True accountability means saying, hey, I did this thing and you are within your right to feel whatever way you want to feel about it. But it's important for my heart and my soul to express this to you. And even if there was not drama and shadiness that occurred, some of you could just feel inspired to reach out to somebody that you have not spent time with in some time. You know, there is a holiday here in the US this week, so maybe some of you are traveling to your hometown and you're wanting to reach out to someone from high school. You're wanting to reach out to a family friend, someone that you have not connected with in a while. Maybe there hasn't been all this like hurt and pain and this need for apology. Maybe it's just, you know, life got busy and I want to reconnect with you. And we may have transformed quite a bit. We may have changed quite a bit from when we were connected, but Mercury retrograde can make it a really wonderful time to reminisce and to honor the role that this person has played within your evolution, within your growth. You know, it felt significant to me as much as my little Pisces heart wanted to like end this week's vibe check around. And then you guys were able to be best friends again and you spent all your time together. Like sometimes there's just certain connections that are not going to be with you in every season of your life. And that's okay. Maybe every so often you can wish happy birthday, you guys can catch up, but it's might not go back to how it was, and maybe it's not meant to go back to exactly how it was. With Mercury and Saturn stationing direct this week, there is an energy around moving forward, making peace with our past so that we can keep moving towards our future, right? We're in Sagittarius season. Archer is going forward. And sometimes, especially with Mercury retrograde, we have to draw the bow back, right? Deal with the loose ends of our past, the messes that we have to clean up with our past so we can continue to move forward. And we cannot bring everything with us sometimes into our next era. You know, Mercury and Venus and Scorpio is a reminder of that, around the necessity of having to shed our skin like a snake and continue to slither towards what we desire. You know, it may not make sense to have these particular relationships in this season of our life. It doesn't mean that there is not goodwill there. It doesn't mean that you don't cheerlead that person and love that person. Just sometimes there's connections that are for a season, you know, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And you got to acknowledge that. But it doesn't mean that you can't have, you know, sweet conversations, coffee dates every so often, or maybe that apology that you feel like is due. And this could absolutely be an energy, even if it's someone who's within your world currently, like actively in your world and like a lifetime type person, right? Because Scorpio energy wants those friends for a lifetime. There could be an energy on reminiscing on the past, like talking about, remember when we did this and we were this? You know, it is very special to have people within your life who have seen you in different seasons of life. Sometimes it can be very excruciating if you've had a messy season of your life around, oh God, you saw me when I was moving through that. I was down bad off of this. But it is special when you've seen someone, you know, at their lowest, and then you get to celebrate them when they're at their highest. Like that is the gift of having those friends within your life that are truly ride or dies. That's the gift. And it's important not to have so much shame about those lows that we run from the connection altogether, because sometimes that will happen. If you've ever had someone who has ghosted you after some really atrocious behavior, or who has just basically dropped you after you helped them through something challenging, sometimes it's really not about you. It's just that they hate that you saw them like that and they don't want to face that within themselves. So it's easier just to avoid you. Again, sometimes when we're running from ourselves, we run from anyone who reminds us of where we have been, because we don't want to face that. We don't want to be reminded of what we went through, of what this person helped us through. So it's easier to just pretend like that never happened and pretend like you never happened, because you're a reminder of that, because you helped that person through those times. And it can be so cruel when that is done to you. You know, you can't really find peace in a connection where somebody is not at peace with themselves and all that they are. That means your rebirths. That means your evolution. We all have things in our past that we are not proud of. Some of you may relate to the Brenda, where someone did some wild stuff to you and they fell off the face of the earth. Like, you have not heard from them. And maybe that apology will come around this week. Maybe it'll come around in a decade. Maybe it will never come around. You know, we can't do other people's push-ups for them. And with Saturn in Pisces, we can't do other people's spiritual push-ups for them, which is why my encouragement is focus on your path, your karma, your work, because getting very attached around, I'll finally be able to move forward once I hear that apology that I need, or once this person comes back around. It just keeps you in that holding pattern, in that waiting period. And, you know, sometimes people skirt accountability in multiple lifetimes. Okay. So it's not waiting for you to move forward and find peace and acceptance and alignment with your own path, hinging upon somebody else's behavior. Even if you are genuinely owed that apology, even if you are owed that closure or whatever it is, we just don't know when people are going to rise to accountability, and maybe they never will. And so with Mercury on Venus, some of you may feel inspired to reminisce, to have certain loving conversations with others, to extend sweet, genuine compliments. Some of you could just be deep diving into your own soul around really journaling. This could be a really lovely writing aspect. I want to highlight on Monday, the moon is in Capricorn all day long, and Capricorn energy is associated with prestige and accomplishment and doing the best and being the best that we can. And with Mercury retrograde aligning with Venus, if it doesn't show up in a relational context, it could show up around finishing off your projects and maybe reworking the aesthetic of it. With Mercury aligning with Venus retrograde, you could be really deep soul diving around like who it is that you are and how that may impact your marketing as it relates to business. The Capricorn moon will actually sextile that Venus Mercury alignment around like 11 a.m. noon. So there can be an energy around the transformations that are necessary in order for you to be the best that you can be. And it's not forcing all of the new projects, all of the launches. The time will come. The forward momentum is on the way, but there can be an energy around dialing things together to prepare to launch. The Capricorn moon squares Chiron at 1:06 p.m. and then opposes Jupiter, which can just be those pains around not feeling good enough, or feeling like you worked really hard at something and it has not been recognized, or just a pain around I should not have to be as strong as I have been. You know, if you've dealt with someone like the protagonist who has created chaos within our world, sometimes it can be very frustrating that people can make this huge mess and then we're alone holding the bag or having to clean it up. Especially Capricorn moon, sometimes there's this energy around having to be very self-sufficient, having to satiate our own emotional needs because we don't trust that other people will be able to. And that can hurt. Like, you can be strong while still feel the pain around, I shouldn't have to be this strong. Or that also could show up around like work ethic, around I shouldn't have to have this much on my plate. Just because I'm good at my job doesn't mean I should have 3 times as much as everyone else. Like, there could be some pain points around that. And then the Capricorn moon will oppose Jupiter at 4:12 p.m. and then sextile to its answering to Saturn Pisces at 4:48 p.m. So all in all, it is a productive day. There may be some ouches that do come to the surface, but there is an energy around preparation. You know, we're currently in the waxing crescent moon phase after last week's Scorpio new moon. Let me know how that was, by the way. And waxing crescent moons are typically around building and growing. Now, Mercury's retrograde, so it's never going to be my encouragement around, launch all the things, start all of the projects, but it can be beautiful for going back into things that are like half done. Have you ever found that where you like worked on a certain project and then you look back and you're like, this is almost done. Like I just lost steam on this project 2 years ago and now I'm able to dial in these final elements of it in order to bring it forward. Some of you could be doing that, like going back into the archives of some sort, or even going back to old journals, contemplating old ideas, looking at half finished paintings, even with Mercury aligning with Venus, and contemplating how is it that I can bring this into fruition, like ground this down in reality. That's Capricorn moon energy in order to move forward with this. Sometimes that's why we're yanked back to the past and it can make us feel like we're not moving forward. But sometimes there's certain like clues or certain data that's important for us to gather as we progress onward. Sometimes we can get inspired by a past version of self, or we can get inspired by an idea that we see in a journal or a certain photo. Like sometimes the Scorpio energy reminds us how it is that we have evolved and transformed. But with Mercury retrograde, there might be some versions of you and some ideas that you've had that are helping you towards what you're transforming towards next. On Tuesday, November 25th, the day starts off in Capricorn with the Capricorn moon trining Uranus, sextile Neptune. So could have some interesting dreams, potentially with people from the past. Okay, Mercury retrograde on Venus. And sometimes the most random people will make their way into your dreams. You're like, what? What could possibly be the message from my middle school lunch lady? Like, why did I dream of that person? Like, why? And my encouragement when it comes to Mercury retrograde, it's so rarely around, the people that come back or the people that show up in dreams. Yes, there is a mental focus around completing the incomplete and tying up loose ends from the past or finishing projects in the past, like we talked about. Yes, there is an energy of the past. And sometimes that shows up in the form of people from the past coming back around, either in your reality or in the ethers. And it's so rarely about them, especially with Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. It's like really contemplating, what does this person represent within my psyche? Maybe it's not that my middle school lunch lady is going to play this huge important role within my life. Maybe there's a middle school version of myself that needs comfort right now. Or maybe there was a certain crush that I had in my world that really hurt my heart. And yes, it was like middle school, but that was my first exposure to love and relationships, and that really hurt. And maybe there's elements of the heartache then that are alive within my world now, all of these years later. Or maybe there's a friendship breakup at that time. Like, think of the version of you that this person is attached to. Same goes if somebody does come back around in the DMs and wants an apology or is trying to come back. It's not around the universe saying, this is your soulmate, let them back in. Sometimes it's around, this is an era of your life that you are having to make peace with. And sometimes there's past versions of ourselves who are attached to certain things. And sometimes we have to go back and connect to that version of ourselves in order to fully let go. To give an example, there was someone in my life that I really had a challenging time letting go of. And it boggled me for some time because, like, on so many levels, I knew that it was time to let this go. My mind knew it didn't make sense to have this person in my life. My heart knew I would not feel safe with this person. And my soul knew that this person was not in alignment for my journey. So it was like, on every level, I'm ready to release this person. Like, why is this still coming up? And then I realized I had to connect to the version of myself when I was younger where this person was my world. I mean, seriously, I orbited around this person. This person was my sun, and probably not in a very healthy way at all. Truly, my dreams, my visions in life were this person. This person was my God. And that dynamic really worked in that time of my life because I was content orbiting in someone else's solar system. And that person required to be the sun of their solar system, like required people to orbit around them. So the dynamic worked. I wanted someone to orbit around. They liked when people orbited. So it aligned. I was comfortable orbiting around this person at the age that I knew them at because they were my world. But then the world opened up for me, and I no longer wanted to orbit in somebody else's solar system. I wanted to be a star in my own solar system. And so present version of me, when I had to make this decision, was like, it's a mismatch. I can't have this person within my world because then I would have to diminish to a prior version of self. Plus, mind, heart, soul knows this is not for me, but it's like the younger version of me was like, wait, no, but it is for me. This is my world. This is who I orbit around. You know, Neptune was crossing my Venus in Pisces in the 7th house. It was a time. And I had to go back to that version of myself and explain to her, we cannot hold on to this person. It was like that was a version of me that kept me tethered because there was a younger version of me where this person was my world. So they couldn't understand why I was letting them go. They couldn't understand why I was walking away. They're like, this is your world. This is your God. Why are you walking away? And that was the version of me. It was like in the present moment with the experiences I had had and the wisdom that I had had and the mind, heart, and soul awareness that this was not for me. There was still a version of myself who was refusing to acknowledge that or who had clung very tightly to this idea. And so sometimes that's the work that we do in rectifying the past, is going back to the past versions of ourselves and explaining to them that this is not aligned. Sometimes that is what keeps us very tied. So maybe if you do dream of your lunch lady or an ex or something like that, contemplating, maybe it's not about them, maybe it really is around me and a version of myself that I need to connect to in order to fully heal or release or grieve or let go. The moon enters Aquarius at 2:16 a.m. and then aligns with Pluto just before 6 a.m. And so with this energy, you could wake up and that dream could have weighed very heavy on you if you had that dream, or just even like confusion or just the bizarre element around it, around why did I dream of my lunch lady from middle school? Sometimes our dreams are random. I'm not saying you need to like dissect every element of it. I do think it can be worth journaling, reflecting, especially in the final days of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, around what could this symbolize for me and to me. But sometimes you wake up and you're like, what? The Aquarius moon kind of loves the what elements of life, just the bizarre, weird eccentricities of life. But I will say with moon on Pluto, you could wake up with some fear, some anxiety, or just feeling kind of intense. The Aquarius moon will sextile the Sagittarius sun at 9:28 a.m. PDT, which is a reminder to tune into the visions you're moving towards, the Sagittarius sun, and the community that you're building said visions with the Aquarius moon. There can be a focus around wanting to give back. If you are celebrating the holiday season, wanting to donate or volunteer or something like this could be alive. Or there could just be an energy to really inspire your community, uplift your community, be an optimistic force within your community, spread hope within your community. Something like this could be alive. On Wednesday, November 26th, we have a beautiful Grand Trine exacting today involving Venus in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer, and Saturn in Pisces. Grand Water Trine means flow. And so it's important to flow today and really this week as this Grand Trine forms in the cosmos. This would be a really lovely day for flow state, to do the things that you lose yourself within. It could be really lovely for dance. It could be really wonderful for movement. It could also be really wonderful for crying. You know, water energy can be mystical and synchronistic and so compassionate, like full of so much love, but it can also be deeply emotional. And there's an ask to flow with this energy like it's a wave. You know, water energy is the ebb and flow, where sometimes we get carried by a wave of emotion that feels very sad, and then it gives way to a wave of emotion that's very nostalgic, a wave of emotion that's very tinged with grief. It's like really just allowing ourselves to be the container that allows these emotions to flow through, while knowing this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And being very present for those waves that pass through of awe, of inspiration, of deep love and compassion. Where is it that we can really surf the wave, so to speak, and not resist against it, you know, not seek to not resist against it, because as you know, waves in water, it's very powerful. You know, some of those waves can knock you over. It could disorient you. It can sweep you away from reality. And so there's an ask to let the waves of emotion, inspiration, artistry, love, compassion move through you. I want to highlight that this is the final couple days of Venus being in Scorpio. Venus does enter Sagittarius this weekend, and Venus is not dignified in Scorpio. It's not the most comfortable here. It's very intense. And love can be very intense. Emotions can be really intense. And some people, when they don't want to feel the emotion, when they don't want to feel the loss of control, they will swim away from it or swim against it or something like this. There's a real call this week of acknowledgement of avoidance of what it is that we've been avoiding, especially as it relates to matters of the heart. And with Venus in Scorpio trining Jupiter, it can just make you feel the full wave of love and compassion and care for someone. And with your meeting with Brenda, it's like really loving this person and loving who they've been. And sometimes that makes another wave hit you of guilt because you're like, how did I do that to Brenda? Again, love is something that is expressed. Venus trining Saturn. It's something that is shown. It's shown via your actions. And there are consequences to what we do, relational consequences to what we do. This feels relevant just with Saturn stationing tomorrow. And it's a reminder that we can love someone and our love could be eternal and undying. You know, Venus and Scorpio, like that can still not be enough. Like with a trine to Saturn, we can still have to have boundaries of how it is that we show up within this particular connection, or if we have this person within our life. And that doesn't diminish the love that was shared. There could also be an energy around, planning for the future, getting excited for the future, reminiscing perhaps on the past that you've shared with someone and getting excited around the future that you're mutually building. It takes two to tango in any sort of dynamic, in any sort of relationship. And with a Venus trining Jupiter, it's like really feeling the love and the sweetness and the enjoyment of connection. With the trine to Saturn, like consciously making the effort to work on it, show up for it. Because being a good partner, being a good friend means acknowledging your own faults as well as putting effort in. Scorpio energy can sometimes be around, let the bridges we burn light the way. And truly, there is a time and place around acknowledging this is not a connection for me and I need to walk away, and that's important to do. But if it's someone that you care about, sometimes like our ego and our pride will get in the way and we will just shut down from the connection altogether or just like avoid it. And if it's someone that you care about, sometimes there is a lot of value in working through it and having the uncomfortable conversations and putting in the work to be accountable to your side of things. Venus and Scorpio can be around evolving, growing forward. So even if it doesn't show up around this meeting with Brenda, like if you're in a relationship, there just could be an acknowledgement around talking about some things from the past and really seeking to not just acknowledge the other person's point of view, but meet the conversation with here's how it's going to change. Here's how we're going to move forward so that we're not repeating this toxic cycle, this toxic dance. Either I have to have acceptance that this is what transpired or this is how you are, or we need some sort of shift. We need some sort of change. And it could be easy to offload around you did everything wrong and you're the problem. But with Saturn direct tomorrow, also acknowledging your side of things, your role in things, and really seeking to hone in on the love that exists, the devotion that exists, the loyalty that exists, and how this person could have really had your back when you were down bad, when things were going great. Venus in Scorpio is like allergic to a fair weather friend, or people who, drop like flies when things are not going great for you. And then all of a sudden are conveniently super friendly when all of a sudden you're thriving. It's like convenient. Like Venus in Scorpio doesn't want convenient people. They want people who are there and writers. And sometimes being a good partner, being a good friend means not judging the other person, but keeping them accountable, not enabling them for their bad habits, but attuning their focus to how it is that they are going to improve the situation as we move forward. Those are real ones. And sometimes being in a relationship means having some uncomfortable conversations. You don't want to be surrounded by yes people or people who just say everything that you do is like, yay and slay. That energy definitely has a time and place. Right? But the real ones, like with Venus and Scorpio, it's like really honoring like the real ones where it's like, listen, I'm not going to judge you for you being down bad, but I'm going to reflect that we want to get you out of the cycle because I love you. I don't want to see you like this. How are we going to strive to move forward? With Saturn direct in Pisces tomorrow, how are we going to move forward? Because sometimes we are not interested in moving forward. We just want someone around us who will commiserate with us around the past, or want someone who will listen as we position ourselves as a victim in every instance and every occasion. We want someone who will let us drone on and on and on around the same thing over and over and over again, and how it made us feel and how this person is at fault. Again, it's not to say that the events of the past and people that have hurt you, it's not invalidating the pain that has been caused. But Saturn Direct asks, what are you going to do moving forward? All we have control over is ourselves. And with the Venus Grand Trine, it could just be really honoring those connections and relationships that have seen you in those times of your life and were loyal regardless. And we all have different things that we reach for to soothe ourselves when we are down bad. Some of us are like our protagonist in this week's vibe check. Some of us avoid what's happening within our lives by diving into toxic relationships or overworking. We all have different outlets that we navigate when we're down bad. For me, it was tarot readings. Someone who is going through it in TikTok, tarot readings is a lethal combination. You don't know down bad until you are up late at 2 a.m. looking for TikTok readers to give you a reading around the same situation over and over and over again. And if you saw me in a TikTok live asking yes, no questions to a tarot reader, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. That's how I was personally coping. And it would take the pain away momentarily if someone told me what I wanted to hear. You get kind of like a hit, like a dopamine hit every time you get a reading. And while I love the mystical arts and I love tarot as a tool, I was misusing it. I was not using it to grow. I just wanted it to tell me what I wanted to hear so that I could deflect accountability, so that I could avoid making meaningful change within my life. I'm like, if the cards will tell me that something is going to change, then something will change. Like, I don't want to have to actually do it. It was an interesting, expensive era for me. I think there's a lot of value in tarot when you are doing it with intention, when you are checking in, connecting to your higher self, and not in this energy around tell me what's going to happen or tell me things are going to change, but how can I make this happen? How can I make this change take place? That's the way that I use tarot now, and I do not get readings like that anymore. I cannot believe I was just opening my energy up to just random people online. It was a time. One of the readers I found is a literal angel on earth. I'm convinced. I'll drop her information below. Kaylee Alexa. Some of you have heard me talk about her. And now she is one of my dear friends. Like, it turns out this random girl that just came on my TikTok live when I was like just really going through it and getting all of these readings just so happened to live in my same city and be like legitimately a soul sister. Like, genuinely, I'm so grateful for our friendship. And the way she is able to be my friend when she literally not only saw me at my lowest, but read for me at my lowest. And still like never judged me. Like, the fact that we were able to like forge a friendship from that is so beautiful because my aura was a mess at that particular time. I was a mess at that particular time. So I'm so grateful to have someone who like met me at my lowest, and now we get to be friends when like energetically I'm in such a different space, and we get to be in the space where we're like flourishing and thriving together is truly such a gift. And so sometimes there's people like that where is that like, I took accountability for that. I faced how much I spent. I faced what transpired. I made the meaningful change that I had to make within my life, and I strove to move forward. And sometimes when you are on that, you will align with other people who can move forward with you and who can hold you in those spaces without judgment around what you were going through. Like, it's so special to have those like ride or die people within your life who don't judge you. Because even as we're talking about this energy of, atonement and accountability, it's really not our place to judge someone. We really have not walked a mile in someone else's shoes, but it's really beautiful to have those friendships, relationships that can evolve with you, that can grow with you. And so with Venus so highlighted within today's astrology, it's a really lovely day to really feel into what and who you love. Allow it to carry you, make some food, light the candle, listen to some music, indulge in Venusian things. Yes, Venus is not comfy. Yes, Venus is not the happiest right now, but with the trine to Jupiter, we're wanting to enjoy the sweetness of this experience. And with the trine to Saturn, also having some boundaries. So if you do have some time off at this time, or you're traveling to go home, it's also important to compartmentalize your tasks and responsibilities. If you are someone who tends to bring your work home with you or on travels with you, like compartmentalizing or just deciding like, this is a worthy investment of my time to be very present in reconnecting with this friend or spending time with this family member or something like this. Like, Saturn also brings about boundaries energy. So even if that's not showing up with work, it could also be around, I do want to spend time with Aunt Marcia. Aunt Marcia has been catching strays for like the past 5 weeks of Magic Monday. It's so funny. We forgot to get her from the airport one week. We were talking back with her at the dinner table. Poor Aunt Marsha has been catching strays on Magic Monday. But let's say you're spending time with a family member and you know it's around small doses. You know, there's some people where it's like, love you and I'm able to be really good for 2 hours. At that point, gets grating. At that point, the conversation goes to places where it's not good for our relationship and I need to bow out. I need to bow out gracefully. So it's also honoring your limits there as well. If there are sometimes a little bit of spiky dynamics alive, honor your limits there as well. And our lunar story on Wednesday. So when it comes to Wednesday, really loving flow of energy with this Grand Trine. The moon is in Aquarius all day long. So there could be a focus on our friendships, on our community, positive burst of energy with the Aquarius moon sextile Mars in Sagittarius. That aligns at 9:21 a.m. The Aquarius moon squares Mercury in Scorpio. So being mindful that people have different perceptions of how they see things. So even like when you're sitting with Brenda, it's like she tells a story and you're like, I don't quite remember it that way. And it's not saying like you're wrong, you're off. Like we all do view things differently. Like there's Brenda's side, your side, and the objective reality of it. And sometimes when we're so immersed in something or obsessed with something, like we just don't see it clearly. And we don't need to invalidate the other person's point of view. There's just going to be some frustration here or like some stubbornness here. And the Aquarius moon sextiles Chiron, so being focused on moving forward with your healing and others. On Thursday, November 27th, Saturn in Pisces stations direct. Get ready to pay the consequences for what it is that you have been putting out there, positive or negative. When Saturn shifts directions, what it is that we have sown, we reap. And so if you have been chiseling and minding your business and focusing on your own soul's work, Saturn in Pisces, this could be a time that you start to see some of that reflected within your external reality. If there's something that you have been trying to get away with, there could be a price to pay. If there has been something you've been wanting to hide, it could come to light. Some sort of lie or secret could be exposed, especially with Mercury stationing direct in investigative Scorpio on Saturday. All that has been in the shadows will come to light. You have to trust in that. Eventually, what is done in the shadows will come to light. So do you like what comes to light? We all have skeletons in our closet. We all have things that have transpired that we are not proud of or that we are ashamed of. But the more that we gaslight ourselves into believing that it does not exist, the more power it holds over us. And sometimes just making peace with it around, yeah, I'm not proud of it, making amends where necessary. It does not make those actions or those lies evaporate, but it helps us in moving forward and not having to live in fear around a secret being revealed or something that we've been doing having a compounding effect. And then now it's snowballed to something so much bigger because we did not recognize it. With my little TikTok tarot habit that I just told you about, it just felt like, you know, a little $10 here, a little $5 here, a little $15 here. All the while it was snowballing. You know, Saturn direct is a reminder that our actions snowball. So it could just feel like, oh, a drink here, just one little drink won't hurt, but everything snowballs. As well as like the daily decision around today, I'm going to exude loving compassion. Today, I'm going to strive to make a difference. Today, I'm going to strive to give back, or today, I'm going to strive to be financially responsible. Like all of these things snowball and build momentum from that. And sometimes we don't recognize just how large the snowball has gotten until it's about to mow us over. With Saturn direct, there could just be an energy of consequences in the air, ramifications of that. Now, sometimes we have positive snowballs, right? Where it's like you've been working so hard on your fitness, you've been hitting the gym, and you're like, where are the outer results for all of this work that I've been chiseling? That could be showing up. And again, it is nice when those things show up in the outer world, but so much of it is internal, where it's like, yes, even if you're not seeing the physical ramifications of all the hard work that you've been putting in at the gym, you are building that muscle of discipline. Like you're building that muscle of showing up consistently. And that may not be a fruit of your labor that you can eat right now, but that's a really worthwhile muscle that you're building. So there should be an energy around external consequences, rewards, results showing up within your outer world, or perhaps within other people's world as well. If you have certain connections within your life where some of the decisions that they have made it so there's certain consequences around. You have lost access to me. Or Aunt Marsha, you only get to have me at the gathering for 2 hours because of how you have treated me throughout the years. And it can make you feel crazy dealing with someone who won't honor and respect your boundaries because they don't see that they did anything wrong. And in fact, they've gaslighted themselves into believing that it didn't happen or diminishing your point of view. And that can feel so invalidating when someone says, oh, it wasn't so bad, or that didn't happen, when you know firsthand the pain that it has caused and the boundaries that you have had to construct in order to protect your sensitive heart. And to have someone say, it's not so bad. It's truly maddening. It can make you feel maddening because we can't move forward in fantasy land. We can't move forward by saying, oh, that didn't happen. It did happen. Saturn's direct. Now there's consequences. Now there's a boundary. Now there's offense. Maybe before I would have stayed with these particular family members, but no longer. Maybe this is someone that I would have entertained having a conversation with to reminisce, and now no longer. If it's not, the consequences to your own actions. And if there's somebody within your life that you feel like is in fantasy land, just trying to tell you and convince you that that didn't exist, you can't move forward and they can't move forward in fantasy land. And it really doesn't do any good to try to force someone else to come to reality. People deal with their own reckoning in their own timing. And if you are someone who has dealt with someone like the protagonist, where someone has been, spiraling or engaging in really negative, toxic habits that you see are destroying their life, they have to be the one to decide that they want to change, that they want to turn things around. You can't do it for them. Someone else has to decide that they're ready to be accountable. And it can be so frustrating. I'm not saying that you have to wait for that. I'm just saying with Saturn direct, moving forward within your reality in the best way possible. And so the first quarter moon in Pisces exacts at 10:59 p.m. And in addition to potentially this temptation to gaslight ourselves, to live in fantasy, to Lululand, shadow side of Pisces energy, the encouragement is also around taking action to bring our dreams to reality. Sometimes we get lost within our own inner dream world and just escaping into our fantasies. But Saturn direct in Pisces and the first quarter moon in Pisces is around how are we bringing those fantasies to reality? Maybe we called something in with that Scorpio new moon last week, and now is the time to take action, take a risk in order to bring your dreams to reality. Pisces energy is meant to exist as this dance between fantasy and reality, which is why many individuals with prominent Pisces placements will be very imaginative, very creative, very natural manifestors. They're meant to kind of dance around what's in the ethers and what's in reality. But in shadow expression, there can be an energy of existing fully in fantasy. No, that didn't happen. Or, oh, it's okay that I'm not pursuing my creative hobby because I dream about it when I'm at night and I just basically fill my time with things that will distract me from reality rather than doing things in order to bring my dreams to reality. Like, it's meant to be a dance. And when we seek that dance energy, we could sometimes get so jaded from our reality that we live completely in fantasy. And it can be totally disconnected, our dreams and our reality, where we can seek to escape. We could seek to drink in order to avoid our reality. And the reason I chose our vibe check this week is because Saturn in Pisces has many dimensions to it. I'm going to link the Saturn and Pisces video that I did. It may be worthwhile to reflect on this journey and what it's shown to you since 2023 when Saturn first ingressed into Pisces. But part of it is around escapism. And there's lots of different things that we turn to around escapism. But something that I called in that video, and it's absolutely the case, is a lot of people really questioning the role that alcohol plays within their world. There are studies that show that people are drinking less than they ever have before. And this is not me in the moral authority saying it's good or bad. It's just Saturn in Pisces. I think a lot of people are really questioning their relationship with alcohol or other escapist tendencies. And with the first quarter moon in Pisces, really questioning, are the things in my life numbing my reality or enhancing my reality? Are they bringing my dreams to life, or am I just living my life in my dreams? That's the question of the first quarter moon in Pisces. And Saturn stations direct in Pisces just before 8 p.m. We have the first quarter moon in Pisces before 11 p.m. And with the Pisces energy, it can be around compassion and empathy. and acknowledging maybe there's reasons why this person wants to diminish what transpired or how they treated us. Like, we can acknowledge the waters that someone is swimming in around, oh, you're just doing what was modeled to you, or you're just reacting because of the pain that you caused, or you don't want to deal with the shame of how you affected me. Like, we can acknowledge the extenuating circumstances while also acknowledging that's their work. Like, that's their push-ups to do spiritually, soulful push-ups. And I don't need you to acknowledge my pain for me to know that it's real and for me to take the steps necessary, whether that's boundaries or decisions, in order to move forward. And there's going to be a strong call around wanting to just numb it away or escape it away. It didn't happen, whether we do that for ourselves or someone else. But growth only happens when you are in reality. Where, I love some fantasy. I've got some Pisces energy myself. We all love some fantasy energy, but we don't grow there. We don't grow from pretending like it did not exist. And, it's never comfortable to admit you did wrong, right? We want to swim away from that. It's so uncomfortable to say we were wrong or we made a mistake or what have you. And some people will build the most elaborate lies or the most elaborate fake world in order to avoid admitting that they are wrong. They will do anything besides admit that they are wrong, and you are going to waste so much of your energy trying to get them there when that's their work. That's their Saturn and Pisces. Focus on your work, focus on your karma, and also really know, just in case, like, some of you get called out by someone, and not call out around, like a compassionate conversation around, I'm worried about you because of this, or I've noticed this. The people in our life, especially the writers that I was talking about with that Grand Water Trine yesterday, they do hold us accountable. We genuinely don't want to be around yes people all of the time. And sometimes it's uncomfortable when someone that you love is saying, hey, I noticed this. And it's important the way that they do it. It can be really uncomfortable. And like I said, everybody's work is their own. Like, everybody's spiritual work is their own. Like, people will not change unless they're ready to. People will not take accountability until they're ready to. But sometimes when we have a certain conversation or someone sheds a light on it, or it's someone that we love saying that they've been hurt by our actions, sometimes that does create some soul searching. And so there's an invitation to do that, because with the first quarter moon in Pisces, Saturn direct in Pisces, could be all too easy to be like, nobody understands me and I'm such a victim and everybody mistreats me and everybody is the worst to me. It could be easy to go on the defense around, well, you don't understand. You would do the same if you were in my shoes. Maybe that is true, but Saturn direct is less interested around what transpired, how your emotions were hurt, how you were a victim of this situation. Not saying it did not happen, but Saturn direct is interested in how are we going to move forward. We can replay the same transgressions over and over. How do we move forward? And it's helpful to have those people within your life that are like, okay, you know what transpired? I'm here for you. I've got you. I love you. I've noticed this. How are we going to move forward? Because again, it's special to have people in your life who are loyal, who are like, I know you're down bad, getting all of these TikTok tarot readings to try to take the pain away, but we're going to get through this. We're going to evolve. We're going to grow from this. And you have to choose to do that, to decide, I'm sick of this cycle. I don't just want to circle the drain. I want to move forward. Because like I said, some people will build a whole world so that they could just stay and keep commiserating on the past and what happened and what should have happened and all of these things. Saturn direct is around what happened is not your fault. How you proceed forward is your responsibility. And it can suck sometimes. Saturn energy can be a reality check where it's like, dang, I was done wrong at that old job. I was a victim of that situation. That person was shady to me. And I could talk everybody's ear off about that for the next 5 years. I can keep saying like, oh, it's just the waters that I was swimming in and this and that. And all of these external factors made me do that. But at a certain point, as little fish, we need to like swim to other waters. Decide these waters are not doing it for me. Yes, there are toxic waters here that I have ingested. There's things that have been done wrong to me, but I've got to swim elsewhere and forward with Saturn direct. And so Saturn direct in the first quarter Pisces moon could make things feel a little somber, a little heavy, potentially a little depressing. Before the moon enters Pisces at 11:24, it's in Aquarius in the morning, squaring off with Venus and Scorpio, and Uranus and Taurus. Again, Venus and Uranus oppose over the weekend, so there could be certain things that take you by surprise. Someone was meant to come to the gathering and they can't make it. Somebody was meant to be on mashed potatoes and they forgot. them. There could be something like that. With the moon entering Pisces at 11:24 a.m., there could be a lot of sensitivity. There could be an energy of reminiscing on the past, with Mercury also being retrograde. There also could be an energy of feeling picked on. You know, with the energy of Pisces, fish don't have a shell. So there could be certain comments that you really take to heart or you really take personally. There's an ask this week to really own up to our faults, our mistakes, our role in things with Saturn Direct, while also acknowledging that not everything is ours to take personally and seeking to, you guessed it, move forward. You got it. Really an emphasis of this week's astrology. On Friday, November 28th, the moon's in Pisces all day long. And with the square to Mars in Sagittarius, we could be pretty fired up about things. You know, there could be an energy around feeling very sensitive and feeling the weight of not just what's happening now, but also what it's been built and stacked upon. And sometimes being very fired up or very angry. Sometimes people will get angry with you for bringing up what they did. It's like, don't get mad at me. You're getting mad at me for being mad at you. There just could be an energy where you might be a little easily triggered, irritated, might feel a little bit rash, reactive. Something that I have had to learn as a very highly sensitive individual is how important logic is. And I know you're like, Haley, duh, logic is important. But when I think of the most atrocious things that I have done, it's always things where I'm like, yeah, but they made me feel that way. And they made me do that because I was so sad or I was so this or I was so that, as though my emotions or how I felt justified the actions that I took. And I've learned they really don't. They really do not. No matter how mad I was in the moment, no matter how sad I was in the moment, it did not justify treating someone poorly or doing something wrong. It just does not justify it. And the more I indulged in that sort of mindset around, it's the waters that I'm in, they made me do it. It makes us helpless because then we're just reacting to the world around us and feeling out of control with our behaviors because we're hinging it upon, yeah, well, they made me do it. And it could be really toxic to ourselves and to others. And so for me, what I've had to learn is like feeling my emotions, honoring the data that they're telling me, and seeking to take steps forward with logic to also avoid misfires. Because Pisces energy is very psychic. It's very sensitive. It absorbs quite a bit of the surroundings. So sometimes we think we're mad at Brenda, but we're actually mad at ourselves. Or we're mad about this other situation in our life, but we take it out on our mom. Or like something like that. There could be misfires. And it's like we could be so full. Again, Pisces moon is very absorbent. We can be so full of other people's emotions that once someone looks at us wrong, it's like, oh, there's an outlet to dump this energy on. And our emotions are our responsibility, especially if you are highly sensitive. That is your responsibility. And maybe Saturn Direct is that, around acknowledging when your waters get a little poisoned. You know, energy maintenance is so important right now with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And that is around acknowledging I don't like who I am when I'm with Aunt Marcia after 2 hours. Like for some reason, when we're at 2 hours and 2 minutes, all of a sudden I just get so filled up with Aunt Marcia's BS that I turn into a psychopath. I don't want to be. I turn snippy and sour and I don't want to be that person. So how is it that I can bow out gracefully? Say, Aunt Marcia, had a great time eating pie with you and now it's time for me to go. Acknowledging if you notice that you get very burnt out when you're on client number 5 in a day, I can only take a max of 3 clients, or I need to have 45 minutes after each meeting in order to reset. Like having those energetic boundaries for yourself, those emotional boundaries for yourself, especially when you're just so overfilled, like you're so saturated with everybody else's emotions and feeling into the energy of all that's happening around you. Like energetically, everything that we do takes a toll somewhere. And so it's acknowledging, when do I reach my breaking point? And what are my triggers? Is it when I'm overtired? Is it when I'm spending a certain amount of time? Is it when I'm staying with someone? It's really like learning your energetic rules and abiding by them and enforcing them so that you don't watch yourself be someone you don't want to be. And so that you take accountability around those words I said to Aunt Marcia at 2 hours and 3 minutes. Like, I have to atone for that, or like that is something I did, but I acknowledge there were environmental factors that contributed to me going there. And how is it that I can really establish rules for me to not go there and not be as emotionally reactive is an ask with the Pisces moon square Mars in Sagittarius. And I will say, as we get into the later hours on Friday, the Pisces moon is building to trine Mercury in Scorpio. That exacts very early on Saturday morning. So there also could be an invitation to journal on what frustrated you, to reflect on what frustrated you, to vent with someone about what frustrated you, or to have productive conversations. On Saturday, November 29th, my loves, congratulations. Congratulations, you've done it. You have made it to the other side of Mercury Retrograde November 2025, at least after 9:38 a.m. PST you have. So I'd love to know below, how was that Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius and Scorpio for you? Are you the same person on the other side of this Mercury retrograde? Are you feeling a bit like this? Personally, I'm feeling a bit like this. That's how I'm exiting this retrograde, but onward we go, right? With Mercury stationing direct, there is an energy where we've tied up loose ends from the past, we've completed the incomplete, and now we are moving forward with enhanced wisdom from our past with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Typically when it comes to Mercury energy with it freshly direct, I would say walk, don't run type energy. No need to get ahead of yourself. Wait till Mercury clears the shadow to do anything too crazy. Too wild. I'll let you know when that happens here in the cosmic corner of the internet. But with Mercury direct, it's just important to take all of the reflections that could have transpired, all of the wisdom that you've taken in, all of the secrets that could have been exposed, other people, your own, and move forward and allow your focus to be fixated on the future. Like we talked about, sometimes we'll get stuck in a cycle around just being obsessed with the past. We just cannot move forward because we're just so obsessed around ruminating and obsessing and commiserating. At a certain point, you have to decide, I'm ready to move forward, and I am moving forward. You know, Mercury stationing direct in a fixed sign. So being very insistent within your mind, I am getting to the other side of this. I will get to the other side of this. It takes that resolve, that willpower, and affirming, I am progressing, I am evolving. Continuing to affirm that mentally supports you in making shrewder, more strategic decisions moving forward. Just deciding, I will get through this. And, you know, sometimes we have to do scary things. We have to call the scary person that we don't want to call. We have to apologize to the person that kind of scares us. Like sometimes we have to face these matters or do these things that scare us a little bit in this name of moving forward. And it takes that mental commitment around, there is a version of myself who's on the other side of this conversation, on the other side of this phone call, on the other side of this raised negotiation that is so proud of me for having the fearlessness in order to do this. Scorpio energy, the only way out is through. And we could try to bypass, we could try to avoid, we could try to escape. The only way out is through. And you get through it by deciding, I'm going to get through it. I'm absolutely going to get through it. I will be happy again. I will move towards my happiness, my joy, my wisdom, my freedom, whatever it may be. Make that mental decision and commitment to that being the case. And know that with Mercury direct, there's a focus on what is it that we're creating? What are we building? What are we deciding on? Walk, don't run energy with Mercury not yet having left its shadow, but there's an energy around the future. There's an energy around what's happening around us. There's an energy around wanting to proceed forward, move forward, grow forward. The other significant event on Saturday, November 29th, is Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus. Expect the unexpected when it comes to love, when it comes to finances. There can be some WTF moments this weekend where you're just Black Friday shopping at the mall in your hometown, and then you see the cafeteria lunch lady from middle school, and you're like, what are the odds I would see her at JCPenney? And I just had a dream about her. Like the other night, like what? Or you could run into someone random that you're like, what are you doing here? Or there could just be random events as it relates to love and connection. Someone could switch up or start acting totally different. You could be craving space, or someone could be craving space from you. You know, Venus and Scorpio is like, let's fuse together, let's merge, let's become one. But the energy of Uranus is around like, but I also need the space to do me. So there could be like a push-pull around wanting intimacy while also wanting individuality. That could be an element here. There could be unexpected bills. You could buy something really random. You could be given a gift of something that's really random. You could even meet someone randomly in a very eccentric way, like a very random encounter, or maybe even somebody who's outside of your typical type. You know, people are portals. And again, we take responsibility and accountability for our role in any sort of relationship. But it's important to know that we are not just dating people. We are dating timelines, in that there are certain potentials that we are able to tap into when we are connected or bonded to certain people. There are certain pathways and opportunities that will be denied to us the more that we are bound with certain people. And so it's acknowledging the spiritual weight that comes from who it is that we walk through this life with, and being open to people outside of your typical type. You know, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you will keep getting what it is that you've been getting. And so with Venus and Scorpio opposite Uranus, it's an energy around, how can I switch things up? How can I try something different within my dating life, or try something different in terms of who I'm typically drawn towards, and see how it goes? And Venus opposite Uranus, in terms of any sort of committed partnership, it could be like some sort of random date night, doing something a little odd, doing something a little bizarre, but there also could be some unpredictability in your romantic life this weekend. Random occurrences or ideas, or even just your partner having a random craving where it's like, we never go get Indian food, and you never crave Indian food, and now you're like dying for us to go get Indian food. Like sometimes you navigate life with someone and they just say something, or they have a certain craving where it's like, who am I married to? Who am I with? Like, you want Indian food tonight? Like, what? Where has this energy been? Like some of you could have something like that, or somebody put something on their holiday list that you're like, when have you been a runner? When did you start running? Why are running shoes on your list? Like, I've never known you to be a runner. It's knowing that, yes, people are portals. And as we interact with certain people, there are certain worlds that open up and opportunities that open up. You know, it's knowing that when we are connected to someone by way of friendship, by way of business partnership, by way of romantic relationship, we are not just dating them as they are. We're holding space for how they evolve and grow and change and develop. And so sometimes those things can knock us off guard, or maybe even make us unsafe around, like, who are you? Like wanting to interrogate this person with Venus and Scorpio around, like, who are you and what have you done with my husband? Like, my husband doesn't like Indian food, which is crazy. Now all of a sudden you're open to try it. Like, what? But it's like giving people the space to try out different things and connect with different sides of themselves. Our lunar story on Saturday. So the moon is in Pisces for the first part of the day, trines Mercury after midnight, which can be supportive for conversations, especially conversations that progress forward, that grow. You know, when we're highly emotional, oftentimes we're not the most logical to express, hey, this is what hurt me. This is what upset me. This is why I'm upset. Sometimes it just comes out like we're growling, like, da da da. Like, that's not always the best way to get through to someone. There just could be an energy around being able to have a conversation where there's like progress. You know, it could be so frustrating if you've been in some sort of cycle with someone where someone refuses to take accountability for their role of things, and you've been admitting to your side of things, and you're like feeling like it's Groundhog's Day, but you never know when there could be forward momentum. You never know when you have a conversation that actually gets through to them. And this energy does feel somewhat supportive. So maybe a great time for like a hike in the morning, a walk in the morning, have some deep soul talks. I say that because the moon trines Jupiter, aligns with Saturn. And so yes, the energy of Saturn can sometimes bring some weight on our soul, on our emotions. But with the trine to Jupiter and Mercury stationing, there's an energy on progressing forward, moving forward. I'm so sorry for how often I have said this within Magic Monday. Take a sip of your dirty chai every time I say move forward. You will be very caffeinated by the end of Magic Monday. The vibe later in the day gets a little bit more mystical, ethereal. The Pisces moon trines Venus, so very deep, very soulful. It sextiles Uranus at 3:33 p.m. and then aligns with Neptune. So it could be very dreamy, great for taking a long bath or getting lost in prayer or meditation or a good book, maybe a painting in a different artistic style than you usually do. With Venus opposite Uranus, the moon enters Aries at 5:07 p.m., which brings about a spirit of initiation around, we felt about it with the Pisces moon. Now, what are we going to do about it? With the moon in Aries, as well as a desire to have some fun. The sun is in Sagittarius, the moon is in Aries. Try something new, go somewhere new, explore adventure, get into what it is that you are passionate about, be open to a challenge, especially with the Aries moon sextile Pluto. Know the value of trying something again and again and again. On Sunday, November 30th, Venus in Scorpio will trine Neptune in Pisces at 12:48 a.m. It's like its final hurrah in the Scorpionic waters, as at 12:14 p.m. PST, Venus will enter Sagittarius. But before it does, there's a very deep, soulful energy, very spiritual energy with Venus and Scorpio trining Neptune. A reminder that we can have someone not within our physical experience and still love them deeply and cherish them deeply, whether they are on the other side or just simply life circumstances have made it so that you guys are not a good fit for one another. You know, there are some people who bring the worst out of us, and the consequences of the worst is our responsibility around, yeah, I did that thing, but this is a particular person who just draws and elicits that energy out of me. There are just some people where it's like your demons and their demons love to play together. And that might have been part of the reason why within the vibe check, you and Brenda weren't like leaving around, okay, we're going to be best friends and spend a lot of time together, because you recognize the friendship was very codependent. You guys would just like party all the time. Like you recognize it was not necessarily the healthiest, and you can love this person from afar. Like sometimes it's helpful to just love the person from afar, especially if you acknowledge, much like what I shared earlier, logically, it doesn't make sense. My heart doesn't feel safe and my soul knows this is not aligned for my path, but it doesn't take away from the love that I have for this person. I could wish this person well from a distance, and I could just recognize the role that this person played in my life in a spiritual level as well. You know, we learn a lot through our connections, and maybe you and Brenda in between lives made a pact to come back and incarnate together in this lifetime so that you would learn accountability in this lifetime, and Brenda would learn forgiveness. Like sometimes we decide to help one another out. And I remember, I don't know which exactly book this was, but I remember reading that oftentimes our souls are besties with the people that we're enemies with, because sometimes we have so much spiritual growth that's elicited from people who we have challenging relationships with. Like they're really the catalyst for so much growth and doing some hard stuff, right? Having those uncomfortable conversations, having to take accountability for some shameful parts of your life. Like it's considered that sometimes our souls elect around, okay, I'm going to meet with Brenda and we're going to have this sort of relationship and we're going to learn this. And even if we're mad at that person, sometimes our souls are high-fiving around like, thank you for teaching me boundaries. Thank you for teaching me compassion, and acknowledging the spiritual tone within our relationships is the ask with Venus trining Neptune, as well as potentially forgiveness, softening the parts of our heart that could have been hardened with rage and resentment. And again, it's not invalidating the pain that was caused, but it's deciding that you want to release it, that your soul is nudging you to continue to grow forward. And outside of forgiveness, knowing that forgiveness is something that we do more so for ourselves rather than the other person. It's okay if you're not there. We're all at different parts of our journey, and the transgressions vary in intensity and oftentimes are spanned over different times. And so some people could just acknowledge like, what you did to me was so sick and so gross and so atrocious, but I'm ready to let it go. I've learned what I needed to on my side, because again, it's not saying that us learning all the lessons we can take away from what other people do to us, but it's acknowledging this transgression that was done to me, it made me learn boundaries. It made it necessary for me to learn boundaries. And so I can love the gift that it gave me while hate what I had to go through in order to get there, or love the person, the soul that I knew, while hating what they did to me. Like sometimes viewing things from a soul perspective can aid us in being able to move forward, much like a wave. With all of this watery energy, just allowing it to flow through us. And with Venus trining Neptune, some of you could really feel inspired to want to give back, to want to donate to a cause that you hold dear. Some of you could want to get into a yoga class, something like this, something that's good for the heart, that's good for the soul. You could have a conversation that's very deep with someone. You could go to a museum or create something of beauty that transports you to a different world. And after noon, the planet of love, beauty, money will enter Sagittarius. So when it comes to connection, there's a desire to adventure and experience with the people that you love. Book a trip with someone that you love, or go-kart racing with someone that you love. Like say yes to life. Like Sagittarius energy wants to go wide. Scorpio energy wants to plunge deep. Sagittarius energy wants to explore wide. So there just could be an ask around, I want to go to these cute little like holiday pop-ups that I've been seeing, and I want to go ice skating. You know, Venus trine Neptune can make us want to romanticize our lives. So maybe you're like, I want to do the fun festive things, or I want to get people together in order to make a difference with that Venus trine Neptune separating. With Venus in Sagittarius, it could also be around being open to new adventures, being open to new people. You know, there is an ask this weekend to be open to someone who's outside of your type. Explore, adventure, and know that we don't just date people, or we don't just make new friends. We meet new sides of ourselves that person elicits out. That's why people are portals. And so with Venus and Sagittarius, it's kind of giving this like, F it, why not? Someone asks us on a date, or asks if we want to grab coffee, or we see an invitation of a workshop that sounds fun. I mean, Venus in Sagittarius is really giving YOLO. energy. It truly is. And what's also giving YOLO is that the moon is in Aries all day long, trining Sagittarius sun at 8 a.m. So definitely like a say yes energy. We really only do live once in this particular lifetime, like in this incarnation. And sometimes it could be helpful to acknowledge that because, of course, I would assume lots of patrons here in the Cosmic Cafe, regulars here in the Cosmic Corner of the internet. I would imagine a lot of us do believe in reincarnation or multiple lifetimes. It's totally okay if you do not. But I mentioned that in that sometimes we can think, okay, I'll learn forgiveness in the next lifetime, or we'll figure this out in the next lifetime. And Aries moon sometimes gives us energy of urgency around, I just have this particular lifetime of me being me and you being you and these particular identities with this particular story. Let's figure it out now. Let's learn the lesson now. Why wait? Why wait for the next lifetime? Let's do it now. As well as if there's something you really desire, something you want to do, something that you want to experience, some place that you want to explore, like dreaming about the upcoming year and questioning, will this be the year that I finally prioritize the thing that kind of scares me a little bit, the thing that I so want to do, but I haven't dared to fully plunge into or explore? Is this the year? Why not? So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra, crafted and conjured from my heart to yours to support you as you navigate through, is I view all things and all people through the lens of compassion. Compassion is a necessary ingredient in this week's cosmic recipe. And I want to be so clear, compassion does not equate being walked all over. Have we learned nothing from Saturn's transit through Pisces? Compassion with limits, kindness with boundaries. Anything beyond that is self-sacrificial. And in some instances, we'll watch ourselves become someone that we do not want to be. It is our own responsibility to maintain our own energy, to decide after 2 hours that it's time to wash our plate, give everybody a hug, and sail out of there. If we know after that we start to feel very triggered by Aunt Marcia, it's up to us in order to enforce the boundaries that are necessary for us to filter our own waters, knowing that the actions that we take are our responsibility, but being very intentional with the conditions that we allow around us. So compassion does not equate being walked all over or putting up with people being cruel to us, but it does ask us to view situations with a lens of empathy around acknowledging within each and every person, even the most challenging person that you are having a situation with, there is a younger version of them within them. They have gone through hurt and pain and suffering. That does not validate what they did to you, but it's acknowledging we all have our stuff. And where is it that we can, if at all possible, view the situation with compassion, or view ourselves with compassion is also necessary here around having this reality check, Saturn direct in Pisces, but not judging ourselves too harshly. It's like acknowledging what I did was bad, but I am not bad. And that's why I am going to take the steps necessary in order to improve my life. That is true self-love. That is truly loving yourself, is loving who it is that you are, that you decide, I want better for me. My soul is not content with the way that I've been living. I need to atone for what weighs on me in order to swim forward towards my own destiny, my own dharma, whatever that may be. And to really strive to be compassionate as we have these reality checks. Sometimes people aren't ready for the sit down. Sometimes people aren't ready to give us the apology. Sometimes people aren't ready to accept the apology. There's also an ask with this week's astrology around acceptance and surrender, not complacency. There is an ask around how can I move forward, but just accepting, like it is what it is. I can make the apology. That doesn't mean that they will receive it. I could be owed an apology. That doesn't mean that they're going to make it. We are all on our own path. So how is it that I can accept the circumstances for as they are and seek to move forward and not wait on this person to accept my apology for me to proceed, or this person to make this apology for me to proceed? It's important to do whatever's right with your heart and soul to feel like you are making amends in the ways that you feel called to, but you cannot control whether they accept it. You could be owed the best apology in the world, but if you feel like you've been in limbo waiting for it, there's an ask to move forward. You know, we've got this big world. We're in Sagittarius season, after all, with adventures and experiences. And if we feel like we cannot tie up the loose ends of the past until someone shows up in a particular way, there can be an ask to have compassion for the version of yourself that was hurt. Go back and give that person a hug. That's the person within you that is suffering, that is struggling, and seek to walk hand in hand with that version of you into your next era, because you deserve that. And if you are on the other side of things where you are waiting on someone to accept that apology, it's knowing within your heart and soul, you did all that you can do. What's done is done. There is an energy of radical acceptance around, I did all that I can do, and I have to just honor where this person is at. I cannot force an outcome. I need to accept that they're on their timeline and that my actions have consequences. And sometimes those consequences are boundaries. Sometimes the consequence is having to wait some time before the apology. But that's not saying you have to keep yourself in limbo until that comes in. Know within your heart and soul, you did whatever you could to make it right and seek to continue to move forward. I tried to make it the rest of the episode without repeating move forward because I swear I said it so much, but couldn't resist. One last one. The emoji of the week, if you happen to make it to the end, go ahead and drop below a little fish emoji as a shout out to the first quarter moon in Pisces, Saturn direct in Pisces. You can also utilize the word fish in a sentence. That's just a little game that we play to let me know that you made it to the end of your podcast. I want to give another heartfelt thank you to Ana Luisa for A, keeping me stylish and fashionable always, and B, for hooking us all up with their biggest sale of the year, their Black Friday sale. Do not miss out on this opportunity to gift yourself or someone that you love the high quality, affordable jewelry of Ana Luisa. You can get your pieces for up to 30% off, as well as a free gift when your cart hits 130. You can check out the link within my description or scan this QR code if you happen to be watching me on the big screen, which kind of intimidates me. Not gonna lie, if anybody does watch me on the big screen. So thank you so much, Ana Luisa. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay magical.